All right. So welcome everybody to an extra session for our late Egyptian course, or in general for our Egyptian studies. The question had come up: what are the different types? The different ways how to type hieroglyphs, especially in squares, because the most common method, just install a hieroglyphic font and then start typing with some kind of hieroglyphic keyboard. What that's most of the time going to give you is linear glyphs. And in this session, we wanted to go over, well, what are the different alternatives that can give you nicely arranged squares? And I'll go through two major alternatives there, but let's start with the very basics, namely how to get hieroglyphs on your computer at all. Let me move that taskbar. And this is going to be, I think, a pretty interactive session. So anybody please chime in for any questions. I'll try to cover as much as possible for the Windows environment and the Mac, but everything I'm doing here is on a Mac. So there are some slight modifications required when working in a Windows environment. A place I like to go to, I mean, keyboards always a question of trust. I like to go to Christian Casey's website. So Christian Casey, Egyptologist, because he has a whole bunch of useful downloads there. So that's Christian. Downloads. And under downloads, he has an Egyptian hieroglyphic keyboard for the Mac and one for the PC as well. Or rather, the one for the PC, if you click on that, it's actually Keyman. Keyman Web, that's a much bigger suite of different input methods, basically, which you can install for Windows. And there is an Egyptian version in there, basically. How do you type in there? You can type Gardner codes, or you can type also the signs phonetically, and it will basically substitute the signs for whatever you typed in hieroglyphs, similar to the way how you would, for example, write Japanese or Chinese with a Western keyboard. So that's the Windows option, Keyman. If you don't like to install it, they have an interface, a browser interface, where you can just basically uh, type and combine strings one by one. It's a bit slow, not the most convenient method, although I sometimes use it, but I have to quickly just create a few glyphs on the fly on a Windows system where I don't want to install anything. Now on the Mac, we have Christian's very convenient input method that I'm going to show you over the next few minutes. There are installation instructions for that. They are a little bit cut off here on the right-hand side, but nothing crucial is missing. So basically, as soon as you click on that keyboard, you're going to uh, download a bundle. That bundle, however, um, to be able to actually install that Egyptian bundle, you first need to place it in a folder where the system can find it. And as Apple likes to hide things from you, unfortunately, I mean, I love Apple in a lot of ways, but that is something I'm not a big fan of. You have to put it into your library folder, and if you go into your system, basically, you're not going to see your library folder anyways. But if you press the Option key on your keyboard and hit Go up here, you can actually navigate to the library. So it's a hidden folder. Once you're in there, you'll find keyboard layouts, and that's where you essentially want to put your Egyptian bundle, the one that you just downloaded. Um, Once you've done that, you have to restart your computer. Obviously, I can't demonstrate that. But once when you restart it, it's actually available due to being in that folder. You still have to install it though. So to install it, you go to System Preferences. In System Preferences, you have Keyboard. And in Keyboard, you have Input Sources. And now these are already showing on my end. When you do this for the first time, they will not show, so you'll have to add them with plus. Basically, anything that's in that folder will show up, and you can then just click on it, add it, and I think that's pretty much it. So from that moment onwards, it will be sitting in your available keyboards for the Mac. I have a bunch of them because they have different behavior and haven't figured out yet how to rename them, unfortunately. Christian had some tips how to do it, but just haven't gotten around to it yet. But basically, yeah, now I have that available. On Windows, it would be similar, although I don't know the precise installation instructions for the Keyman web or Key web. What is it called? Keyman, sorry, Keyman version. I'm pretty sure that it should be on their website, how to install it. I'm not sure if anybody can comment on how to get that working on Windows, if any of you has tried it before.
I have installed it on Windows. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay, what's like the major steps you have to do? Do you remember?
I mean, there might be at least like one update to the latest version screen and then restart at least once, which was kind of annoying, but otherwise it's pretty straightforward. At least I think one of the well, no, for Coptic you have to enable another option because the Alt key is different on American keyboards than European keyboards. But for the hieroglyphs keyboard,
Mhm.
it's I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary you have to do that's extra. It's just ready to go. You switch keyboards with a Windows key and space, I think is the default combination.
Okay, cool, very cool.
I don't know how
Um,
it compares to Christian Casey's because I've never used his and I don't have a Mac. But as far as like typing in, like the Gardner codes will work. A lot of the combinations for the literals will work. It's what you would expect.
Sounds great. And like, for example, if you type in, I don't know, if you type in Sejum, you're going to get the little ear basically.
Yep.
So it basically recognizes the
Yep.
most common phonetic input. Again, like in Japanese, basically. Cool. So yeah, then let's see how that works on the Mac version. So let's say I have my keyboard installed, but I haven't installed any of the special fonts yet. I'm going really like basic. I'm just going to use some other kind of setting. Okay, and I'm going to switch to the Egyptian keyboard. You can just use the little world key on the left of your keyboard for that. So, but there's say Sejum, right? I can just use the sentence I used up there. Let's do that. Oops. So I'm not in Egypt. Bentui im Kemet, or Iuna. Bentui im Kemet Iuna. So let's do that. So I'm typing B. Oops. B N T W. So the W gives me the quill check. If I don't want the quill check, I just hit the space bar and it's going to cycle through and it gives me the abbreviated version. Now the A1 man doesn't have a pronunciation, so I'm just going to hit A1. For M, here's the M, just typed M. Kemet, I'm going to type KM, there it is. T for the city, NIWT, because that's the transcription of city. So basically that's pretty good. Sometimes when you have like multiple uh, glyphs for a phonetic combination, like here for IW, EU, there could be an island, or if I hit the space bar, it could also be the walking legs, or if I hit the space bar again, it could be our reclining bubalis. So it could be a dog. It could be meat. So basically, every time I hit the space bar, it's going to cycle me through one of the alternatives, and I'll just stop on the one that I want, and I hit the arrow key, and it's going to move me forward to the next position.
Are
And
you
so,
putting dashes in between characters? Like when you typed chem to get the crocodile tail, you typed KM rather than K dash M, so it knew you didn't mean basket and owl.
no, you don't. That's a really good point. It's different from JSesh. So what I really typed here, let me switch to uh, alphabetic B, and so basically type B N T W spacebar A1 M. Oops, that one looks weird. Okay, it's the font I'm in. M K M T N I W T.
Okay, so it's spaces instead of dashes.
Yeah, it's spaces. You're right, it's spaces. It depends a little bit. So if there is no, for example, BN, if you type BN without a space, because there is no BN glyph, it will just do everything correctly. But when you, for example, what's a good example? Happens often that it jumps into a biliteral when you didn't want one, if you forgot about the space. So you sort of get into the habit of using the spaces just to avoid messiness. So this is brilliant. I can now basically phonetically or semi-phonetically type out Egyptian.
I just remembered on the topic of spaces, at least with the Keyman hieroglyphic keyboard,
Mhm.
if you want to do literal spaces while still in the hieroglyphic keyboard mode, I think it's for Windows at least, it's control space, and then
Oh,
that way it'll just do an actual space, and then it won't either predict the wrong the hieroglyph that you don't want, or it won't do anything like unintended. I think that's the combination. I don't know how it is with a Christian's keyboard, but at least it's a convenient way, so you don't have to keep switching back and forth between English keyboard and Egyptian hieroglyph keyboard.
oh, let me see. I got you. Let me try how that actually.
Maybe yeah, like R ein space.
Okay, R, ein, and then space, you're saying?
Yeah. But like if you do RA like the ein RA and then
Oh,
space,
I see.
normally it would just pop up that I think the sun glyph as the first like predicted hieroglyph. But if you do at least on the keyboard, if you do RA control space, it'll just
Mhm.
do a literal space, then it will keep the R and the A intact.
Ah, it's slightly different here, but I get the logic. So here what I'd have to do is I'd have to hit space first. So I'm typing R space ein, and then that way it keeps them separate. So it's like in between the two characters. If I didn't do that, if I just typed R and then lowercase a for ein, it would give me the Re glyph basically.
And it does that without you even hitting space. It just jumps to that.
So if I don't hit space, if I really tap, hang on, let me turn on the soft keyboard. That way you guys can see what I'm actually doing. Show keyboard viewer. Let's see if that works. So I'm hitting R. Oops. What on earth? Did you see that?
Yeah.
Screen went completely haywire there. So I hit R and now I'm hitting, that didn't work. R and A right after each other. That gives me the ray immediately. If I
I see.
did R space, that's what's going to keep them separate on Christian's version. So there might be a slight difference to Keyman, I guess.
Yeah, with Keyman, you have to specifically press space to cycle through the hieroglyph options. Otherwise, it'll just keep it as the uniliterals,
Oh, interesting.
which
Okay.
could be what the end user wants. It just depends, on how they like to type, I guess.
So I guess it takes a little bit of getting used to. I mean, the space key is the one that you use here to cycle through things as well. So I'm just typing uppercase H, R, oops, uppercase H, R. And so that gives me, when I hit the space button, and if my screen was cooperating better, you could see that. Okay, now it seems to work. Every time I hit, I get a different version of what it could be. And normally that works way better. I think it's getting confused by that soft keyboard being on, maybe. Not sure. So in any case, so you basically use the spacebar to cycle through different options. Um, Problem with this, of course, is due to the font now, this is a linear string of glyphs. What you really want is you want it to look like this. You want the N underneath the B, just looks much nicer. You want the Kemit in a square. But all traditional fonts can't do that because they don't have any positioning characters built. In JSesh, you can do it, no problem at all. In JSesh, you would just go like chem and then colon, and then basically the T and the city would go underneath if we use the right mathematical operators. But a normal Windows or Pages font can't handle that. So that's where those two special fonts now come in. This had nothing to do anymore with Keyman or Christian, but this is basically you want to install some fonts that have pre-built ligatures where you can basically, where the font knows that when it sees a B and an N in sequence, it should substitute them by something that looks like this. It's a single glyph. That's not BN anymore. You can see that when I try to move it around. This is really one element now. It's a glyph that is in the font, and the font knows how to substitute things basically. So where to get those fonts? There are two of them. One is called Egyptian Hiero, and one is called Aegyptus, or I don't know how we want to properly pronounce that in English. I'll call it Aegyptus, Egyptus. I don't know. Whatever. You can find those both with Google, or you can find them on our server, of course, if you search a little bit for fonts. I can also repost them. For example, Egyptian hiero, if you just go into Google and type Egyptian hiero font. Well, the first thing that comes up is Noto, of course, by Google. That one doesn't have the combining capabilities, but this one has on Marvin Kilani's website. So basically, there's Egyptian hiero. That's a trustworthy site. So might just install this one the way that you would install any font. A little bit of detail there involved on both the Windows or the Mac systems, but I think that's easily Googleable, so I'm not going to go through that in detail. Also because I forgot how to do it every time I have to figure it out again, but it's really not hard. So the way you would install any font, and then afterwards you have it available in your font selection. Now, the thing about this is these use ligatures. On the Windows machine, sorry, on the Mac, it's hiding here under that little gear wheel. And there is something that's set to use default normally. And you want to move that to use all for these fonts, because otherwise it's not going to be systematic in how it replaces characters. So to get the full benefit of this, you want to really move it to use all ligatures. On the Windows system, I think it's Control D that gets you to, let's try this on Word on Windows. Is it Control D? Let me see. Font, maybe. Advanced, yay, there we go. And you basically want all. That's the key thing. So this may look slightly different on a true Windows machine instead of a Word in Mac, but essentially it's in there. What you're looking for is the advanced font controls, and just make sure you have all ligatures enabled, and that's it. All right. So let's see how that works out. I could just take what we already have and switch the font on it, and didn't that work like a charm? So it automatically substituted the correct squares for what I wanted. And if I now switch to my Egyptian keyboard and I start to type, it will also do this on the fly. So I just typed N Aleph or NA, and it immediately put the bird in there. Oops. If I type Aleph again, it's going to give me another. No, I don't want that. So let's do this again. I'm going to type capital A. There we go. Space to get to the next position. A1. Here's my little man. If ungrammatically I wanted to put an F underneath that, let's see if that works. Yes, I just hit F and it's going to add that. That doesn't make any sense grammatically, but I just want to show you that it works. Like I can, just by hitting F, K, and whatnot, it's automatically going to go underneath, which is great. Let me try it with the second sentence I just laid out there. That's when you're going to see where the problems are. So, I mean, per se, maybe before we go into problems, this is fantastic. Per se, if I say, for example, I listen Sejm, so I just typed S, capital D, M, little m. Yeah, oops, here's the first problem. I don't want the M under the Sejm. I mean, that occurs sometimes, especially Ramesside orthography. You'll find a lot of stacking of characters, but most of the time I want them separately. If I hit a space, that's going to fix that. But here's where the problem comes in. As soon as I go like delete backspace because I want to have them side by side, it's going to combine them again. So that's a little bit annoying. I listen. That really doesn't look good. I don't want that. I want them separated. So I don't know if anybody else has a better solution. The way that I found that works is to put a invisible space in between. That exists. It's a special character, a special Unicode character. And what I've done is I've set up a substitution on my computer to basically whenever I type a certain key combination to give me an invisible space. So whenever I hit Sejm, and then I put this combination in, which is just something I selected randomly because normally I don't type I mean, normally I wouldn't combine like $ with letters like this, not a programmer. So this is fairly safe. And if I then type M, they stay separated. If I don't want the Y1 underneath the M, same trick. So I'm using that as a breaking character. If I wanted to break here again, so that's how I can basically restore linearity when I need it. And in the beginning, that may feel a little bit clunky, but after a while, this becomes second nature. So for example, if I want to type my favorite Luke, I'm your father, Ru, well, hang on, I don't want it there, I want it afterwards, so put the breaking space in between. Ka, same problem. It would give me this, but if I type this right away, it's just going to separate them out nicely. But normally I do that without even thinking about it. So normally I just do it as I type. Because I know it's going to combine them otherwise. Yeah, I forgot about it. So there we go. T. You could choose whatever combination you like, of course, as your space. I don't like to, you could use a regular space, of course. I don't like to do that though, because I want to be able to type normal actual spaces. So I use the combination that, yeah, is kind of out of the way. And that's how I generate those sentences easily with the correct formatting. Now you may wonder, so how do I do that substitution trick? Let me go there next. Again, this differs a little bit between Windows and the Mac. So on the Mac, let me go there first. On the Mac, system preferences, keyboard, you have shortcuts. Nope, not shortcuts. Is it text? Text. And there you can define automatic replacements. And you see what I did there, basically. I defined, for example, $CO equals, and then I somehow had to get that invisible space in there. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. I also used it for some other glyphs that were not in Christian's keyboard. Like, for example, he doesn't have the vertical book row, the vertical Y1. So I just basically set up a combination for that. I have a combination for some of the those little extra strokes. The default keyboard shows you the very long one. I want the ones that are a little bit more petite. This glyph that is a hieratic thing, and somehow it doesn't appear in the keyboard. So basically, I put a few different things in here just as shortcuts. So you would basically define a new shortcut, and the only tricky part is for the CO, you need to know how to get that invisible space that doesn't show up on the display, but still serves to separate characters. So how do you do that? Well, on the Windows machine, that's easier because you can type in Unicode directly. It would be Unicode 200C, 200C. Apple makes it a bit harder.
You said you're using a non-breaking space or something, or a
An
zero width
invisible
space,
one.
invisible. You
Mhm.
know, like with the like how did you find it originally? Did you copy it from the web, or did you do like a option control
Exactly,
like
the letter.
because I just looked up one for a non-breaking space for Mac. It said option, I think option command hyphen, and that's a non-breaking space. I don't know if that does a similar thing or
The non-breaking space, the problem with the non-breaking space is it's visible. And that's the
oh,
one that you don't want that. Non-breaking space prevents the program from like at the end of a line going over to the next line. So it's a really useful thing. It essentially forces things to stay together and have a space between them. But the problem with it is it's still visible.
I
So
think Kalani's page where he has that font available to download, he mentions like at least one. I remember using it because I never used his font in Word. I've only used it on the web.
mhm.
There's at least one HTML element. I've never seen it before I use this. It's like, like when you do like HTML or body, like, like you have them like in angle brackets. Uh, there's one that's like, it has like the letter Z or W. It's like a three-letter. It has it. If you still have his page up, it might be that one, like the
Um,
Z, W, and
oh, cool. Yeah.
he mentions it on his page if I'm not
Oh, I missed
mistaken.
that. Interesting.
You still
So
have it open.
Ralph just posted it, zero width non-joiner. Yeah, that is it. Unicode 200C. That's the one. So you want to somehow get that produced on your computer. You can use for Apple, you can use the Unicode keyboard and just basically type it as a normal Unicode character by entering essentially 200C and then just copy that into your substitutions. You can probably use the font book that comes with the Mac. You could copy it from a website. I mean, there are different ways how to get it. But essentially, you somehow need to get that zero width non-joiner. Wow, that's a name. That's a handful. A mouthful, I mean. You want to get that into your substitution list, and then you're golden. You will notice right away that as soon as you type your substitution combination, it auto substitutes. It will not combine those two glyphs anymore that are around that zero space. Or what do we call it? Zero width non-joiner. On the Windows system, same thing. Nice thing on Windows is you can type in Unicode more easily, which I can demonstrate. If anybody has a Windows system and knows how to show it, it's essentially what is it again? I think like Control X or something, and then the Unicode. That makes it really easy. And then you would just put that into your substitutions in Word, for example. Where are the substitutions in Word? Autocorrect options, is that where it is? Yes. So basically what you can do here is you can type in replace and then choose whatever combination you want. And then you'd basically copy that zero width separator in here, and then just define that as a replacement. So make sure that whatever you use as a substitution is something you would normally not type, so it doesn't become annoying in typing regular English or whichever other language. As you can see, I've made ample use of that to put all sorts of special characters in. And so you can do that as well for your non visible or invisible space. And that's it. So whichever way you use, you can also do it at the system level. Some people like to get tricky, and you could define that as like a shortcut in your keyboard. Honestly, I have no idea how to do all that. I'm using a very low-tech approach, which is just use the auto substitution function on whichever system you have, and just use the non-zero space. What am I saying? The invisible or zero width space. Use that as a replacement, and then you're in business. So that would work in either system, basically. Questions so far?
You had a couple of auto replaces with signs that didn't exist in the font, like that backwards F kind of hieratic thing. How did you do that? Where did you copy and paste those from? I'm assuming you copy and pasted them.
Yes, that's the only way.
Okay.
And luckily there is something that's super helpful. That is Unicode Gardener.
You said you're looking for the Unicode one, right?
Yes.
Try Egyptian hieroglyph Unicode block.
This one?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's it. That is it.
Although it's all organized, by, whatever the Unicode sequence. So it's not organized by, categories and whatnot like the other pages.
Right. Although, I mean, the categories still hold by and large, I
I
think.
mean, they're in order, but you'd have to eyeball it or
Yes.
just
You sort
intuit it.
of have to know your way around it, but I use that one for two things. I use that one for rapid lookup, what the sign code on something is, I can't remember. It's way faster than going through the traditional Gardener lists. And the other thing is you have those special characters at the end, like, for example, horizontal numbers that are not in Christian's keyboard. I'm not sure if they're in Keyman. I doubt it, kind of. I mean, some of them you can't.
Keyman, I think, has them like for
Oh,
for
good.
the 3 plural strokes. Like if you want to do instead of doing 3 plural strokes that are horizontal and like facing up, if you want to do the 3 plural strokes that are like vertical and they're facing that way, I think you do like instead of like Z, whatever the normal code is, like instead of like Z3 or something, you do like Z3A or Z3B, and it'll give you different
Yeah.
options. Like it'll give you one plural strokes where it's just like the 3 strokes. It'll give you another one where it's like 3 balls or circles, whatever those things are.
Right. Let's do that real quick. That's a really good point. So let me do. Okay, so let's say I want plural strokes under a little man. How do I do it? I just hit the number 3. Oops, nope. A1 space number 3. There we go. That's the normal plural strokes. But let's say I want the vertical ones. I can do Z3, and that will give me the vertical plural strokes, like you were saying. And then if I hit A instead, Z3A, it's going to give me these. So they're all available. And then another trick, again, like Randy was just saying, if you hit the normal 3 for the plural strokes, oh, you can just cycle through it. I didn't know that. Interesting. You can also, instead of doing all the acrobatics I just did, you can just hit the space bar, and that's going to make you cycle through those different options as well. So kind of cute. A lot of things are pre-built, built in. Some things that are not pre-built in are, for example, the horizontal numbers. I don't think I can even get them if I like, wait, what's the key? Let me see. Z016D. I'm pretty sure that doesn't come up. Let me try Z016. So you see already Z0 it doesn't take. So end of story there. Or maybe Z163. Let me try that. Z16. C1 would work, C2 works, C3 works, C4, C5, C6, Z7, Z8, Z9, and I think it stops with 10. No, we still have 10. Oh, wow, 11. Okay, so some of them are pre-built. Let's see that, that's cool. Oh yeah, but after Z11 it stops. As soon as I do that, it thinks the next number I type in is basically it's just a regular number. So
What about just typing the number? Like if you just typed in like the numeral 7 on the keyboard, does that bring up the 7 strokes?
it does.
Oh,
But not the right ones, unfortunately. I would like to have the ones that are properly formatted. And again, when I don't have those, I just go into that table and I pull the one that I want. That's a little downside. The numbers are a bit clunky, honestly. If you want this 7, you have to take it from the table to work. So yeah, a little bit of experimentation is required to get the best benefit out of it. But so yeah, to come back to Aaron's question, that's where I got the character from. So I just took it from here, I typed it, and then copy and pasted it in as a substitution, and just defined something I would hopefully remember to bring it up. And the same for some of the others. All right, how are we doing on
Okay,
time?
I actually have a really stupid question. You're using the space bar to cycle through the options for any given, say a biliteral that's got a lot of different interpretations. How does it know the difference between you spacing to cycle through and you hitting the space because you want it to move on to the next character?
Right. That's a really good question.
Because I have always heard you're supposed to be able to do this on JSesh also, where you can hit the space bar to cycle through.
Okay.
This has never worked for me. When I hit a space bar in JSesh, it just gives me a space, no matter what I try.
Oh, I'm not a JSesh expert at all, so maybe somebody else on the call knows how to do it there. But here in the fonts, for example, if I do Sejim right now, wait, that's a bad example because there's nothing to cycle. Let's do Sesh, which could be this cute little nest, or it could be this version. I just hit space, and I hit space again. So you're saying, how do I know how to go on? I hit the arrow key, arrow to the right, and that would do it. I think return would also do it. Of course, the annoying thing about any of these options is you have to return back, right? Like, for example, if I type sesh now and I want to move on, it's going to get me to the next line. So I have to go to the right and back, which is kind of clunky. And I don't know if anybody has a better solution. But you know what? We're able to type hieroglyphs and I'll take it basically. But yeah, that's a little bit clunky that since the space bar already has a function, namely the selecting function, if you want to get off the character, you have to apparently, oh wow. No. Escape doesn't do it. I just tried it.
I'm sorry, I forgot about it.
No worries.
Yeah, I can't remember what my problem was, but anyway, what I have discovered to solve this problem, what I do is I just press on my Mac FN, which just changes the language to English. So I just press FN and then do a space in English, then press it again and go back to hieroglyphic.
You're right. That is a very veritable option if you have two keyboards.
No, I've got one.
Oh, I mean, if you have like it
Oh, I
also,
see you've got hundreds of things. Yeah.
but it starts to cycle, unfortunately,
Yeah,
because
mine doesn't cycle. Mine always goes back to British, whatever of the 5 languages I'm in.
wow, that's interesting. Oh, lucky you. They are. I mean, they're completely unironically because I just like when I go from Egyptian. Hang on, I'm trying to do this. I'm on Egyptian. It just goes down the list somehow, and
I think it'll swap between the two most recently used ones. If you just
Yeah,
do
that's what it
that.
does for me.
Yes.
it does something really annoying for me because I've looked it up at some point in time. There is something where it treats keyboards that are designed by Apple differently from keyboards you installed from somebody else. So that also messes up the sequence. I was hoping to do what you described, Rebecca, namely to like toggle back and forth the way I can do it on a Windows machine, or on my iPhone, but it doesn't do it for me on the Mac. It ends up on some random recently used keyboard to Ralph's point. It's not going to take something I haven't used in a while, but I don't know. That's a little bit of a
Would it be
downside.
would it be possible for you to show quickly again how you took the Mac version of the font from Christian Casey's website and imported it into the Mac folder? Because I kind of missed how that
Yeah.
works.
Okay.
Some things are hidden on Apple
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I tried to do it too, but in practice for this session, and I just again got stuck quite early on. I could get onto Christian's website, download keyboard, and then it just becomes things that only a kind of computer expert could do.
Yeah, it's unfortunately one
It
of
doesn't
those.
help that you can't read these instructions, by the way.
You mean that the last part is missing? Yeah.
Yes.
Luckily, it's not really, there's nothing key in here. I think it just said paste it into this folder, but the tricky part is you need to be able to find that folder, and it's a hidden folder. So that's the problem.
yeah, that's very obnoxious.
So let me show you how to do this. I know there's several different tricks how to do it, but I'll just use. So let's say you already have downloaded the keyboard, right? So the keyboard is sitting as a bundle in your downloads folder. You have that. And if you go to your downloads folder, well, there it sits. Wonderful. Now, Christian's instructions say put that into the library for keyboard layouts. And then you go to your account, basically, and there's no library. Where's the library? What you
Yep.
need is the option key on your keyboard, the one that says option on it. Have that pressed and go to go, and then the library is visible. If you don't have the option key activated, it won't show the library. So you have to hit option, and there it is. If you click on it, then you see all the system files that Macs normally hide from you. So you don't mess anything up, but you can probably tell from my voice, I'm annoyed by that. I want to be able to mess things up. But so here we go, keyboard layouts. That's where you want to go. And then you would just copy the file from downloads in here, restart your computer. And when you do that, the system will know that there is a new keyboard layout it can use, but you still have to tell it to use it. So let's say you've done that, and you restart. There's one more step you have to do. But before we do this, any questions on how to get this far?
Just before, so I don't forget, it has something to do with using this keyboard by Christian, but if I remember correctly, the Keyman hieroglyph keyboard was also made by Christian.
I thought it might have been. He said something like this before. I wasn't completely sure. So he is the one behind the Windows one as well, huh?
If I
Cool.
remember correctly, that it should say his name like on the page, the
Oh.
author.
Yeah, it does. My question,
Does.
how do I get the downloaded thing into this? Do you copy and paste it or what?
Yeah, that works.
On the Mac, you just
Copy.
drag and drop it or copy and paste it.
That would work too, if you have fine finger skills, which I don't. But yes, that would have worked too. You're absolutely right. But you could just go in there and paste item, and that would do the trick as well.
One of the problems with dragging and dropping or copying and pasting that I found out unfortunately recently with Mac is that it won't erase the original item if it's in your downloads folder. So if you have a
Right.
lot of large downloads, that's
True.
something
You're
that
right.
will require, yeah.
Oh, and you might have to, I think you might have to unzip it first.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I forgot to mention that before, so good that we returned to this. I think you may have to unzip it first.
Which means you have to buy that thing that unzips things if you're
That comes with it.
not
That's
always. For me, it doesn't.
really.
Yeah, sometimes it works. Sometimes the thing pops up and it says. But anyway, carry on. This is really helpful. This is the very thing I wanted to know as well.
Sounds good. So let's say you have restarted your computer and you've told it that the bundle is available. Now the next thing you will need is you will need to go to System Preferences. And in there, whoops, hang on, that's not the first thing you're going to see. This is how it's going to look. You want to look for Keyboard. And in Keyboard, you're almost there, Input Sources. And now in my case, they're already here. But since you haven't installed them yet, you click on plus. And then you look for the Egyptian keyboard down here. And you'll just add it. And from that moment onward, it will be available for use on your system. That's it. One template.
Question.
Sure.
When I do this, it doesn't, when I was doing it, it doesn't show up Egyptian in my keyboard. So is it there because you've added it?
So the first thing is you have to add it with a little plus sign, and then it should be down here somewhere. If it was in the right folder before and you restart it, then it should now show up as an option, but you have to select it here and add it. And you may also have to check that little box, show input menu in menu bar, maybe, I think. And then it will show up here in the list as well. But that's really all there is to it. Make sure you select it from here you add it from the list of available things. It has to be showing up on the right side here to be available in the next menu. If that
Just to
makes sense.
clarify, the things in that list, are they things that you have put in?
And the one, yes, they didn't, from factory, it only came with US International, and everything else I added.
Oh, I see. Because mine comes with loads of things, French, German, all the rest of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hundreds of things, but doesn't come with that.
Mine too. Yeah.
Interesting.
Everything that's a modern language for the most part, at least my Mac came with all of that. But then for
Oh.
cuneiform and for Egyptian and anything else, you have to download it somewhere.
No, you're right. What I should have said is they were available in this screen. I didn't have to install the bundle thingy like we did for Christian stuff. But they wouldn't show up in the menu right away, I think. Like to make them show up here, I had to select
Yeah,
them.
they weren't there.
Oh yeah. You'd have
That's
to
what I
select.
meant. So to make them available as an input method, just like on Windows, where you have to select your input methods that you want to use for any foreign language. Same here, but you're right. All these are those are available to select from. And a few I had to add manually, like the Egyptian one and Coptic as well. Coptic I downloaded somewhere. I think Christian as well, if I'm not mistaken. And that's how I got the Coptic and the transliteration keyboard too. Try it. If it still gives you trouble, we can talk about it next week. But these are really all the steps. From there onwards, it should work.
I actually did manage to do it, about a year ago, but by pure kind of accident. I tried everything. There was somebody's experimental keyboard. Do you remember that? And it says go through the latest thing. Literally, I pressed every button I could think of, which obviously is dangerous. But I have managed to do it.
All right. But okay. And then it got lost somehow on the computer, or
No, I did. Oh, it doesn't look like that. So mine is letters. So it'll say A, and then if I want it to, so A means alpha. Then capital A is iron.
The other way around. Yeah.
wherever I just press the thing loads of times and then a picture will come up. And then, as you say, you press it again and again and again and different things come through. I spent absolutely hours on it, but I don't see, do you actually get to see that thing when you press keyboard viewer?
You do actually. On mine, I had the same exact issue or similar issue where I would only see the transliteration in the keyboard viewer.
Yeah.
But I just followed the steps that Aurelio just showed us for finding that hidden folder and dragging and dropping both of the keyboard layouts, and it shows up in hieroglyphs in the keyboard viewer.
Ah,
So
but
it looks like it
meanwhile,
works.
I've just been doing it with the transliteration. That's fine, isn't it?
It looks like Christian has two separate fonts for and keyboard setups, keyboard layouts for Mac, and both of them can get dragged and dropped into that same folder, and then it adds them. So one is for the transliteration, and the other one is will actually let you type directly in hieroglyphs. And before I was only using Keyman, which is a little bit clunkier, but
Yeah, I'm using Keyman. So actually, even if I took a screenshot of what Aurelio is doing now when I watch the video, I mean, I've learned by pressing every single key button over and over again what they stand for.
yeah, that's actually how I play around with fonts with a new writing system, especially for cuneiform. It's kind of like, huh, is this sign or is this that sign? So, I mean, it's a fun way to learn how a font works. But yeah,
There is a more systematic way that you can use, just like we use that list. I mean, that method you just described sounds very familiar, but in case that you're for like a quick systematic solution, hieroglyphs, Unicode. Now I want the Gardner list. Sorry,
yeah, that was my next question. Can we just type the Gardner code? That would be a lot easier because that's like
can
what
just
JSesh has.
That always works. The other thing is, if you're not sure about the phonetic substitution, like for example, I always like to forget what the little finger is. Not the one that stands up, Jeba, I know this one. But what about the horizontal one, D51? If you go in there, in the list of Egyptian hieroglyphs on Wikipedia, body parts. Here we go. So it also has the most common words in parentheses. And ein and t is actually the phonetic combination that would make the horizontal finger come up. So for some of those, then for example, Jeba is the one that makes the vertical one come up and so on. So if you take a look in the list, the most common word is normally what's also being used in Keyman or in Christian's other keyboard to basically make this come up phonetically if you don't remember your Gardner code. I must admit I'm really bad at it. I do pretty much everything phonetically apart from like the A1 man and the B1 woman. Almost everything is done phonetically. And often I use the like the point and shoot method when that you described, like basically click until you find the right one. But some of them, when I get too much, when that becomes too much, I just take the list and basically look up what the most common word is, and that typically is what the phonetic substitution is as well. So just want to share that works.
Well, another two things that happened to me. I found that if I found a picture, a glyph, I would copy and paste it, put it into my Google search bar, and lo and behold, suddenly M23 would come up.
True,
but then sometimes the picture stayed.
The picture stayed, you mean?
So I put in a hieroglyph, I press the Google, and then suddenly the number comes up.
In Google?
Yeah, so that's right. Copy and paste. Now press enter and see what happens.
There you go. So that would give you the Unicode. And sometimes it will give you the Gardner code as well. Like here, for example,
that's cool.
64.
Is that on Wiktionary?
It was just literally, I mean, I've learned just to go into Google and put, please help me, how do I do this? And then
right.
Oh, that's cool.
The more stupid the question, the more it works.
It does work very well, honestly. You can just
cool.
I do that for confession here, I do that for cuneiform. Same method because there's so many sounds I don't know. So just take me there. Often it brings you to Wiktionary as well, and then you can work from there.
One more tip for idiots. I've finally joined that Ramesses online thing, because you actually have to join it and it asks your institution and your role. Are you a
yes.
professor or student? And I just put housewife or something. But I think I made it convincing enough. I said I'm working with Aurelio Orotto, who is a friend of Christian Casey. So if anyone else has that, well, actually not going forward 20 years, but yeah, they've let me in. I think they just want to find out who's using their website, probably for their university impact.
That makes sense.
Probably. I mean, yeah, I think this one doesn't ask you any questions, right?
Yeah, you have to join it. You have to say, oh, you have to log in. I mean, you can't log in. Oh, yeah, it asks you what your status is.
Oh, but that's the only thing, right? I've seen some websites that actually make you solve an Egyptian puzzle, basically. Like you have to
Yes.
transcribe a word or something.
That one did. That one did.
This one
And
does, right? Okay.
absolutely ours, until I dimly realized it was saying Ramesses.
Oh, okay.
But I only did that by sticking it in Google and trying every single keyboard key I could find.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I guess they're trying to keep the bots out and
Yeah, so actually bots aren't listening to this. So if anyone's watching this, the question they ask is the answer is Ramesses, but it's not spelled in the way that you might think. It's spelled in a really odd way.
love it. Okay. All right, guys. Should we, talking about Ramses, should we switch over to normal Ramses?
Yeah, do you
I
need
just
a break?
noticed that Rillian had a question about double clicking on the bundle and installing it. And it sounds like it doesn't install. You have to copy and paste it into that folder, right?
I
Want to answer
think
their question.
so. I think so. I don't think it does that. I mean, let me see if I have like an unzipped one here.
I tried clicking on it and it just opened some code,
Oh, it's
like something in the text editor, because it didn't know what application to open it in. So
okay. So it doesn't
you can
do it,
try.
huh?
Yeah, you can double click
Yeah,
on it.
there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. Mine just
The-
opened in text editor, because when in doubt, it opens in a text editor. So
Yeah, same with me. Yeah. We must have the same kind of Apple, but I mean, I'm sure we've all got the same Apple. It's just that if you've accidentally set something up in it, like never be able to work anything on this Apple, then it remembers that forever.
Oh, is that right?
this was really helpful,
I didn't
Aurelio.
know that.
Thank you for explaining how to find that hidden folder and put stuff in it. That's really great to know how to do.
Absolutely. No, my pleasure. I mean, there's a follow-up session, and Rebecca, we also went a little bit about like the typing, like tips and tricks how to do it more conveniently with those new fonts. So basically, that will be in the video, and also for, yeah, I don't think anybody else has joined later. But yeah,
And also to flag, Aurelia, that when we first started this, you also went through this.
did we? I made a short video on it, but it was
you
much
made a
shorter than our
short video.
1 hour session, so I
Yeah,
had to
but
skip
you might
over
want to
few-
flag that as somehow as well, because for someone who is more literate, then they might be able to work it out from that.
This is more of a workshop where we're
Right.
getting together and we're figuring out how to do it together, versus like, step by step how you do it.
Right. We can definitely have a follow-up session so what we covered was how to install, well, a keyboard view, not a keyboard view, a keyboard for Windows or Mac to be able to type hieroglyphs at all. Then how to install and use the fonts, which automatically put those, substitute basically anything that can be made into a square. And we covered how to manually uncombine glyphs. Like if it combines something, stack them, and you don't want to stack them, how do you set up basically a control key to break that again? Those were 3 things that we covered. What we didn't cover was those latest fonts, or that latest font. It's really only one that really has like full JSesh capability where you can position glyphs in whichever way you want. I would propose we can do that as a follow-up session, because that will probably take another hour. But I would say let's break the font discussion for today on this one. We covered a lot. I'll edit it a little bit to get all my ums and ahs and how do you do this out. So it shrinks from 60 minutes to 30 minutes, basically. And then we'll post it. But yeah, should we just go on with our normal Ramses for now?
Do you need a break, Aurelia?
Maybe I should get a glass of water or something. So
Yeah, like 3-minute break. What do we think?
Yeah, let's make it a minute or
Sounds
two. We'll be right back. Okay, thanks.